Hello, everybody. Welcome to our tasting for the wine professionals, the distributors. We are very, very fortunate today. We have a special guest, the owner of Château Clamens, Mr. Stefan Heppelmann is with us, and he is the owner. We're going to talk with him about the wines and the appellation and the winery. And then we're going to talk about why these wines make sense for you, our value distributor partner, to go out and sell. So, Stefan, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being with me, for having invited me. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's start here, just so the a quick background about yourself, but so that the good people out there selling your wine know a little bit about you.
Yeah. So actually, I'm German, Stefan Heppelmann. Nice to have you also here in that video chat. I'm 56 years old, and about 20 years ago, I fell in love with France. First with French women, I studied there in Reims, in the Champagne appellation, then with French wine. So, I mean, how cool is that? You start with Champagne and then you kind of get to discover all the rest. I did my career in consulting, strategy consulting, organizational consulting, and then roughly 10 years ago, I discovered, and I really have to say discovered, because also, even if you just move 500 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers away from Toulouse, southern France, southern West France, you would not have necessarily heard about Fronton before. So I discovered that, well, pearl, it was almost a hidden pearl, because in there, imagine they are doing wine for more than 1,000 years. So this is really, a lot of heritage in there, a lot of knowledge, a lot of know-how. And as always, the French, they keep the best for them all. So roughly 10 years ago, I discovered Fronton, I discovered Château Clamens, and I decided to take it over, to keep the former owner, Jean-Michel, as my core employee, because actually he really has a lot of know-how, and to help him develop by investing into different topics, into different technological sides, and also a little bit of size, but really to bring Château Clamens to one of the leading Southwest French wines.
Excellent. So the winery has been around for quite a while before you purchased it, correct?
Yes, exactly. So actually, Jean-Michel is already the 5th generation of his family there. So this is something. Basically, we come, and that's what we write. We come from 1868. Yes, it is. I just need to check. I'm sorry, because it's not my family. And we had the 150 years party celebration just kind of 2 years before. So yes, this is quite a heritage thing. Yes.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about the appellation and the Fronton area, and why a distributor partner would just really embrace these wines in the appellation.
So I think, the first argument is really kind of what surprised me is the heritage, coupled with the fact that it's unknown. So, unlike Bordeaux, which everybody knows, and, it has had its heights and it also has had its lows, but Fronton is unknown. Why is it unknown? Because as an appellation, so as, kind of the region having its own brand, appellation brand, it's only as young as I am. So that was created in 1975 only. And why that? And that's kind of, sometimes, probably always when you come to Europe, it's all those, historic wars and historic topics between the French, the Spanish, and the English. And in this case, actually, it's the English who were sieging Bordeaux. So basically, they were masters of Bordeaux somehow. And when they were kind of taking over, they were saying, well, we ship the Bordeaux wines everywhere in the world. We are exporting that, and only once that the cellar of Bordeaux is empty, then all the wines from the hinterland, from mainland, they will get sold and exported. So very clever French people, they always wanted to betray the English. They just shipped the Fronton wines to Bordeaux, and 17 times, 18 times traded on the way. It's just 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers from us to there. So on the way from here to there, there was that big miracle. It was not water becoming wine, but it was Fronton wine becoming Bordeaux wine. So this is, so this is why actually Fronton never was recognized as being, being their own one. So that's kind of the heritage argument. And I really think you sense and you smell and you have the quality of that know-how and of that knowledge in the wines. And then the second one really is Negrette. So we have that unique grape we have there. And I'll come, when we come to a tasting a little bit later, I'll come to the key specifics of that Negrette. But that really is something, it's also already 300-400 years old as a grape. And it is not easy. So economically, it's probably not the easiest grape to raise if you want to make wines and to produce wines, because you have to invest a lot of labor into it. If it rains too much, it's bad. If it rains too little, it's bad as well. If you have too much sun, it can dry. If it has not enough sun, well, you understand all the problems around weather and weather impact. So that's kind of the second thing. And then the third thing, and that's also really that specific location, we have something which is called the vent de l'automne, which is the wind, the eastern wind, or the western wind, I'm sorry. That is hot wind, like desert wind, and that is very much drying after it rains. So basically, we don't need any chemics. We are very much kind of focusing on, biological ways of working in our vineyard, because actually, that wind really helps a lot on the climate and on keeping the vineyard and the vine dry.
Excellent. So Negrette is the backbone of the appellation, and then are there any other grapes?
Yeah, so Negrette is the backbone, meaning that in the appellation we have at least 50%. Then the second largest one, and I think which marries best, because we always think about how to build the cuvées, how to build the assemblages. So the second one is Syrah, which marries very, very well with it, because it gives it spice, it gives it some more structure, to that fruity side of it. Then we have also, and that's fun as well, we have Merlot, which is not part of the appellation. But, the ancestor of Jean-Michel, he planted that because he said, well, this is Merlot soil, so I need to put it Merlot, though I don't care about, any of those documents. So this is how we launched Château Clamens, which I will talk about a little bit later. And finally, we have Cabernet Franc as well, quite present there.
Okay, excellent. So, Stefan, we have 3 of your wonderful wines in our portfolio and out there in the United States. We've got several markets. We're going to have 10 markets open before the end of the year, which is really nice. So we have your Le Petit Clamens, and we have the Rosé, and we have the Rouge. What I would like to do is ask you first, which wine would you like to taste first? And then tell us a little bit about why the consumer would, why the customer would want to pick this particular wine up, and why the distributor is going to want to sell it to their customer.
Yeah, very good. So let us start with the rosé, because I would always start the tastings with the rosé first. So the rosé is very lighty, very shining, very brilliant. In a sense, if you look at it, it really, I don't know if that comes through in the Zoom, but if you have one on your place, it really has that very pale, very transparent color. So that's kind of the first impression I have of that rosé. Now, the next thing I do is I smell. Now, if I smell, I have immediately, that sweet fruit, banana type of, a strawberry type of perfumes. And then if I go tasting, actually, you still find those, light red fruits. You find some structure in that rosé. And if I compare that, for example, to Provence rosés, which somehow is the standard if you think about French rosés, I find them always a little bit watery. It's more, well, like more liquid, like less intense in aroma. Whereas You know, that rosé, really, if you see it, you'd say, well, it's as pale as the very pale Provence rosés. But then if you really have that in your mouth, it fills the mouth. It really is kind of what we call gastronomic rosé. So it really has texture. It's easy to drink, but at the same time, it really, you know, has something in it.
Yeah, it's a good food wine is what we would say. So for our partners out there that are working with this wine, I can tell you that it's deliciously rich, is what Stefan is saying. It's got a richness to it that a lot of wines don't have, but it's also got that that minerality and that ability to cleanse your palate, which makes it a really good food wine. And
Yes.
Stefan, the blend on this is?
It's roughly 50-50 between the Negrette and Syrah, yes.
Great. And one other thing too, for the good people that are out there watching, is it fair to say that these wines will drink nicely for 5 years? Is that fair to say, or?
Well, if we talk about the rosés, they should be drunken, of course, the year or the year after. Rosés should be drunken fresh. The red ones, you're absolutely right. The 3 to 5 year is very good. Is very good. But the red ones should be, you know, are really kind of the ones of the year or the year before. So right now we're in 2019 or 20 to drink those 2 years. And I just had a bottle of my rosé, 2019 rosé, just last week. And the 2020, which the one you have, really is rich now, is good to drink.
Right.
Now, if I can add something more on the rosé also there, because we really find the Negrette in here. So what does the Negrette bring us into that rosé? It is that idea of quite low acidity. So we have a, you know, very rich in fruit, very fruity, but then we have a low level of acidity. We don't have, you know, something which attacks you, you know, almost in a negative way on the acidity. It's nice, it's balanced. And how do we get that? And also how do we get that, you know, that light color is that on our production process, we really, on that rosé, we really focus on the speed. So typically between getting the grapes and pressing them, and there is sometimes 5-6 kilometers between those two sides, we have rarely less than 25 minutes. So there's no time actually for the color to impregnate the wine, and then, you know, that brings the idea of that pale color in it. Still the full aroma, because you kind of press everything you have inside there. And then what we do is, and that's also some kind of, you know, fun story and fun thing about that rosé, why it is so intense, is we keep the extract, you know, once we press, etc., what we call les bourbes. So which is, you know, the hard bodies which kind of sink down in the tank. We keep that for as much as 3 weeks. Okay, just kind of in there, compact, and we reintegrate that into the wine at the end of the vinification process. So, you know, that balance is really important. Would we only have the concentrate, it would be too concentrated. Would we only have the liquid, it would just be as, you know, the typical Provence wine. So I think the specifics here is really in that balance and in the strength you find in your palate. Now to a trade customer, I would always say, don't wait for a consumer to come and ask for Fronton, because that would never happen. Now, if you want to differentiate yourself, if you want to be a counselor, if you want to be an advisor, and you know, you have this consumers who come to see you because they believe your know-how, they understand you are the expert, and that is, I would say, somebody will never deceive on proposing the Fronton, because it is really something, you know, you need to taste. You will find something fresh, something new, something he's never discovered before. And very often, especially on the rosés, he'd say, "Well, that's really different. That's something I had never experienced before." So I think that is, you know, putting yourselves into his shoes. He will not ask for that. He will not say, unless he's bought it from you before. And I have in Germany, I have that person, he says, my clients just come and say, "Oh, could you give me another bottle of my Clamens?" Because, you know, they almost own it, you know, once they've been tasting it.
Right. That's an excellent point for our distributor partners out there. This is different than anything that you'll have in your book. When we are working around the country, we ask people, how much Negrette do you have? How much Fronton do you have? And there's not a lot of it. So it's a great point of differentiation. I'd also like to bring up to all of our partners out there that in terms of the price, we're not after trying to be the least expensive wine on the shelf. That's not our point. And by the same token, we think that our price is a really good value relative to what's out there for the quality that's in the bottle. So that's important to keep in mind.
Yep.
Excellent. So
should we move to the red ones?
Yes.
So I would move next to the Château Rouge. So here we have, and that's really kind of very good. It's in 2019, we have a 90 points wine enthusiast. Which I think is already a fair statement for a completely new wine. Wine enthusiast is really kind of holding back points for wines which have not been distributed for 30 years or more in the US. So getting 90 points at entry, I think is quite interesting. And why that? Once more, also in the red, what you see here, the color is the first impression you have. It's a violet red, very dark, very concentrated. And if you kind of, turn it a little bit in your glass, you really see it's not that alcoholic. We try to not push the alcoholic degrees too high. We rather try to keep them low, still pushing maturity. But actually, we like wines which are easy to drink, which go with good food, with good, steak, barbecue, this type of things. But actually, which will not be too heavy. So now, if we now take the smell to that one, and I really smell on my glass here immediately is the violet aroma. It's that really is the characteristic of our Château Rouge of Negrette in it. So we have 70% Negrette in here, and the violet, and you really smell that from the first smell is really, really strong in there. Now, if we kind of go further and have that as the taste, what you feel there is, in the beginning, you have that violet coming, then you feel red fruits, dark red fruits, very mature, even the black fruits in there. And what I think as well is quite a good length. So, it's the wine that stays in your mouth, that stays kind of at the same level for quite some time. So in here, really kind of Negrette is expressing itself. What I don't do, because I don't like that, I like the idea of cuvées, because actually that's kind of interesting as well. If you are in the cellar and you really have them, 100% of this and 100% of that, really going cell by cell. That's the way we harvest and then we try to assemble and we try to bring those different topics together. Actually, it's the assemblage. It's bringing those things together, which really gives an extraordinary wine. So it's typically 2 or 3 different parcels of Negrette. So already it's a cuvée, if you want to say so, of different profiles of Negrette in it. And then we add to that the Syrah, which stays on your palate just at the end. It's like, pepper. It's that spices that stay at the end. That's kind of Syrah, which kind of glides you somehow out of that tasting.
Excellent. So next we want to try the Le Petit, correct?
Exactly. So what we have here is we have that topic, of that Merlot. So that Merlot is strong in food, exactly. So this is the bottle. We have the bottle here. And so the petit means small. But the idea is, what does it mean small? Actually, I'm calling my son, it's my petit. It's not diminishing, it's not negative. It's kind of, it's the small intelligent one, and that's kind of how we see that wine. Why that? Because we have that Merlot, as I said, planted 15, 20 years ago on that very rich soil. So here we said, what can we do with that? How can we bring that to a good use, to a good wine round, to have that you know, in also once more in a good cuvee. So we said, well, let's try to assemble that with different wines. So we tried that first with Negrette. Wasn't, you know, that was not what we were looking for. It was too, well, we came after some tasting, after some trying, because all of that product development is always, you know, try, fail, and then move forward. We said, well, actually, if we join that Merlot with our Syrah, which also is very rich, which also is very intense, we will have something once more that nobody else has. We will have a good, fruity, tasty wine, easy to drink, more on the red side now, more also present on the, you smell it in the smell, you really smell the Syrah in there, very much of the Syrah. And then in your mouth, you're getting that explosion of red fruit in there, specifically the how you call it, cassis. I'm missing. It's cassis also in English? Yeah. So it's sometimes I feel like drinking poor cassis juice. You see, so that's kind of, this is full of race. So you know, it's like the, if you think about women, you think about that southern French women, you know, black hair is very long, you know, dancing in the sun that goes, all of that is just in that wine. So that's kind of Le Petit Clamens.
So this is the wine of romance, is what you're saying. The last thing I'd like to really cover before we wrap up here, that I think is a very important piece, and for everybody that's out there listening, the Rouge and the Rosé are priced together. The Le Petit is priced a little bit lower, but one thing that these have, and that it's a very, very major and I think great value, is that these are all grower wines, all of these. So, Stefan, would you like to discuss the concept of récoltant with us for a minute or two?
I'm sorry, I didn't get
récoltant, these wines are all grower. They all carry the fact that you.
Okay, yes. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Yes. So the idea, I didn't get the. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
So the persons who are doing that, from inception, from thinking of what do we want, from cutting the wines, from taking out the old wood out of the vineyard, throughout harvesting, throughout pressing, throughout elevating the wine, all of that is me, is us, is my team. So this is completely integrated chain. We have full control of command, and I think this is really important because I have defined what wine I want to have and what wine I want to produce, together with my team, of course. But once we fix that, it is completely up to us if we achieve the goals that we set to ourselves. So this is why what you have here represents myself, represents Jean-Michel, who's doing a lot of the works, represents all the people behind us, like Charlotte, who's helping me on selling those wines, but also Jonathan, who is maître de chai, who's kind of the one who's kind of, you know, every day working with, you know, that juices in there. All of that is us. So récoltant means I am the one who harvests, so brings everything up to harvest, elevates the wine, and then bottles it as well.
Great, fantastic. So for all of the partners out there, we will put Stefan's contact information with an email address so you can reach out to him with any additional questions you might have. But I think that is a really, really important concept for everybody out there that's out working and selling these wines, is the quality and the price that you get for somebody that is doing everything. That is very unusual, because normally a wine like that, where one person is doing everything, would actually command quite a premium. And in this case, these wines are priced to sell and for the repeat customer. So this is the kind of thing that once you get somebody loyal on this, you're going to be able to have them back and back and back again. And we appreciate everybody's tuning in and checking us out. Please look us up, and please feel free to contact us. We have the rosé in 750s, magnums, and 3 liters, and we love selling the wines. Thank you very much. And with that, we will bid you farewell.
Thank you. Have a good time.